Hey there, everybody. In this screencast, I'm going to quickly finish up what we looked at last time, which was using projects, aka departments or divisions. So I'm going to fire up my Sage50. I'm going to go and get the cab file that I created last class, and I'm going to restore that from the backup. So for those of you who aren't familiar with using the My Files, Langara's Cloud, I'll quickly show you that again. So I'm going to quickly fire up Sage50. I've got Sage50 Premium Accounting version 2019, which is pretty much the same as what we have at Langara as well. And again, I'm going to restore from backup, but first of all, I'm going to go and get the backup. So I'm going to open up my Chrome and go to My Files. And you use the same user ID that you log into your workstation with. And I've placed the file on student share CSFW 2001 and course materials. I'm just going to go to modified. That'll filter or sort, I should say, by last modified as of page 88, and that was on the 10th, which was effectively 2 weeks ago. So I'll quickly download that. There it is there, download. And I'm just going to throw it on my desktop so it's easy for me to find. And I'm done with my files. So I'll restore from backup. I can just drag, I'll just choose my desktop here. There it is. Next, and I'll throw the company right on my desktop as well, again, so it's a little bit more obvious. Usually I put it in my documents. I'll have a folder for all of my various accounting package company files in there. And a file and a folder get created, so I'm going to just put those both into a folder called House of D, or H of D is fine. And House of D, next, and finish. Alright, so last time we did a few things to set up our divisions. So first of all, we went to set up settings and we renamed our divisions departments. We set up budgeting for those departments. We created the departments, and then we allowed divisional allocation in all of the accounts in our chart of accounts that have that checkbox. That is the accounts that we can actually post to. So of course you can't allow divisional allocation for our totals or subtotals or our heading accounts. So let me just quickly revisit that in case you're not actually in my class and watching this video. So I'm going to go to Setup Settings. We have departments there. So I changed that name from division to departments. So notice this says project, so that's actually the native name is project. And then allocation, we allocate payroll transactions by a percent. In real life I'd probably use hours, but in this example I'm going to use percent, and other transactions by amount. If you're going to turn on divisional allocations, it's a good idea to warn. If you're anything like me, you're going to forget to allocate. So if I have departments, I allocate every transaction to a department, every transaction where it's prudent, that is. And then under budget, we're budgeting the department with a monthly basis. And then I went to departments. We created 2 departments, 3 departments I should say. So again, you can just add a department, and I'll just show you one of the departments. Start date, we're using 2017 as a fiscal year. It started back in February. This is useful for projects, not so much for divisions or departments, as they are ongoing. Projects are finite. And then the budget, we added what we expect for revenue as well as our expenses. And again, you can quickly just copy and paste those all down instead of typing them in. And the last thing we did is under the company, again, in the chart of accounts, any account that allows divisional allocation, so anything you can post to, basically an A or a G, will have this checkbox. These should all be checked by default when you create a new company, so you don't have to do that, but in this data set they weren't. So we went through and checked every single one of those boxes for every single account in our chart of accounts. You can see they're all checked. Alright, so now we're ready to go ahead and quickly create a transaction where we allocate amounts to a particular department or project or division. So I'm going to allocate portions of a sale. So go to receivables. I'll create an invoice for Dixon Brothers. This is on February 11th. Oh, we're doing business on a Saturday. And Dixon purchased 2 105s. Let me just stretch out this invoice a bit bigger so things don't stack. There we go. A little better. The tax is, we're in Ontario now, so it's HST for everything. It would be GST and PST in British Columbia. And a 101 they also purchased. And they also purchased 6 S100s, which is our layout and design service item. That's what I'm getting at. And the 2, let me just make this taller so we can see all 3 items. There we go. And the 2 inventory items cost $55 to ship. And HST on freight in Ontario. HST on all inventory. And HST on service in Ontario as well. Alright, so now it comes time to allocate these amounts. So if all of these items were from the same department, we could use this little blue check mark up at the top of the screen to allocate the entire transaction. Or we could allocate here. That would be if the entire invoice was allocated to one department. In this situation, these are from different departments. So we've got sales and design. So if you click in the little department field, the little blue check mark, the check mark always means allocation, by the way. And I'm going to choose sales. Now notice you can also apply the entire transaction to a department, or allocate the entire transaction to a department using that. So that one, that one, that one, those places for allocation are all the same. And amount, that's what we chose in the setup settings preferences, setup settings, sorry, and departments. So I'm also going to, let me just make this so you can see the actual department there in that field. There we go. This one for sales as well. And this one for design. And we'll see this again when we look at advanced payroll as well. We'll allocate percentage of work for an employee to separate departments as well. So the book has you do a purchase as well. Oh, actually they don't. Never mind. So let's quickly take a look at what this looks like in the bookkeeping. If you could look at report sales journal, you'll see now we have a department column, and you have 2 line items per account. So I'm going to go ahead and post this, and now let's take a look at the actual budgets so we can actually see what the reports for the budgets for the departments, as well as the reports for the departments look like. So real quick. So it warns me that freight revenue wasn't allocated, so I forgot that one. So that was handy that I had that checked. Remember the little checkbox in setup settings. So I'm going to say no and make sure I allocate that to sales as well. There we go. Now when I post, it should only warn me. Oh, it doesn't warn me about anything anymore. All right, so I'm done with the transaction. Let's take a look at our reports in reference to projects, divisions, or departments. So it's under report department. And then we can look at the income of our departments. So I want to see all departments, and we're only looking at February. And I'll choose OK. So we can see how our departments did. Nice, as opposed to accounts. And we can also look at how they did in comparison to what we budgeted. Still under departments. And then we have a budget section within there. And we'll look at actual versus budget. All 3 departments for February. And OK. There's our actual, there's our budget. So we have to throw some marketing dollars at that department in order to meet our budget. That's basically projects, divisions, department allocation. So again, we turn the feature on, setup settings, departments. You can change the names there. Choose options for the budgets. Then we can create our departments under there, or projects or divisions, and then we just choose those departments when we allocate during a transaction. Again, we'll see a little bit more of this in advanced payroll. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.